Hello. All right. Today, I wanted to share something that might be just a little bit more practical or useful that I've used. It's a little bit of a technique, I guess, but I want to just talk about how this little change, I guess, basically, or this little thing that I've started to do more and more, but I learned many years ago, affects my day, and I think it's going to be very practical. I've used this little bit of a technique for many years, actually. So I learned it a long time ago. I want to say, was it my early 20s or maybe even, my late teens or something like that. So it's just a technique I use during the day, especially like heavy days, busy days where everything just feels stacked and crazy, and there's a lot of things to do, a lot of things on my shoulders. And I came across this technique. I don't even remember if it was online or in some book, at the time in university, maybe, where I was overwhelmed with everything at that moment and needed something to de-stress, or I was trying to read up on techniques or whatever to try to help make my life a little bit more easier to deal with pressures and things like that. So, even back then, there were moments where I was completely stretched. I'm sure there are people that might watch this who are in university or in college or high school or whatever, or even just in work life where things are absolutely killing you, overwhelming, and the amount of stress that you're dealing with is high. But I learned a little bit of it's not a breathing technique or something. It's just something that goes through my mind, and I wanted to share that. So I remember sitting at a desk the first time I tried this. I had assignments, studying for exams, I think is where I was at. I can't remember if it was high school or university, but I hit a point where my mind was just not cooperating. I hit a wall. I would just stare at the page and I wasn't able to absorb any more information. So, you probably have this where you read over something 3 or 4 times and it just doesn't make sense, or you're in a mindset where you're not fully present. And so I really had to find some sort of way to push through this. Otherwise, I was going to break, hit a breaking point. And so it was around that time that I came across a line. It was a little bit of a technique. And it was essentially about slowing down the mental processes to a point, allowing the information that is already there, and I don't know if this is exactly how the brain works or not, but allowing whatever it is that you're dealing with in that moment to absorb, and that gives you the capacity to move on, or to take on something else, or to take on the next task. So this is something that I needed to take on. It doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in school or if you're in an organization, the problems never go away, right? Only the people handling them really change, right? This is an important thing to take away, is that problems never go away. There are always problems, new problems to deal with. On a daily basis, there are possibly dozens or hundreds of problems that you face and your colleagues face, and there are challenges that you have to face or not, but there are challenges everywhere, But in a company, when someone retires, someone else steps in, and the work just keeps moving, So this idea, first of all, is important to take on as part of this. It changed, the way that I sort of view the world in a way, especially when I was younger. I started to think about this. And I thought about everything. I thought everything depended on me finishing tasks, right? And I still feel like this often. People and things and projects depend on me, and I feel it's easy for me to believe that things will fail if I don't complete some task. That might be the case in a certain project or something where there are expectations that I have to meet. But at the end of the day, the number and the amount of problems that exist don't go away. You never accomplish everything. So back then, I realized I'd been carrying all this weight. And it really wasn't mine to carry alone. I came to realize that I can accomplish the things that I need to accomplish. But the world will not come to an end if I don't do as well at something than I had planned to. The work wasn't ever going to go away completely. And in a strange way, I felt like this did give me a bit of permission to take a breath. And so years later, I use this technique, and really the technique is to stop frequently within a task throughout the day, in busy times where things are overwhelming, and to just stop, cut off any sort of things that are coming at me. If it's trying to close my eyes for 30 seconds, if it's trying to block out noise, put on some headphones, or take myself away from a noisy environment or where there are people talking about something that I need to mentally break from, I started to picture my brain as almost like a sponge, right? People talk about the brain as a sponge. When you're learning, when you're absorbing issues and listening to things, if that sponge gets overwhelmed, a sponge can fill up, but your brain really has enormous capacity. But it does have to be given a break to absorb what's on the surface. And if that's just 30 seconds, if it's just a single minute, to cut off the inflow of noise of whatever it is you're watching or listening to or paying attention to, it really, really, really makes a difference. And I honestly think if you've not tried to think about this technique consciously, it really makes a difference. And it doesn't matter if you're in a workplace or if you're in a learning environment or something like that. I'm sure you are pushing yourself to whatever limit you feel like you have, and your brain is about to snap. Things are busy, there are problems, and if you get to that point, if you can, just pause and stop the inflow and just let that sponge absorb, and it'll make a big difference. And okay, yes, maybe it is a little bit of a breathing technique, because that helps to slow your heart rate down. And if you just take slow, deep, deliberate breaths, this helps to slow down your mind. For me, it makes an enormous difference. And the image that I learned to use, and this is the part where I read how to imagine a big cloud of like silk, basically. It's like a cloud of weightless silk. You're in space or something like that. And there's a giant piece of fabric, and you just breathe it in slowly, and it's a little weird because, fabric. But I would imagine this big weightless sheet of fabric, and I would breathe it completely in, and then I would exhale the whole thing slowly, 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 slowly. And even doing this twice or even just once, I found it changes my mental state completely, from a state of being heightened, stressed, and at my brink, at the breaking point, and feeling like everything is about to collapse on top of me, back to a point where all right, I have problems in front of me that I can take care of now. I can prioritize a whole lot easier. And my brain is now able to absorb new things, look at new information because I've absorbed what was already thrown at me. And I can go on. And maybe I can go on for just another 30 minutes. Maybe it's 45 minutes. But taking a short 30-second, 60-second breathing break, it sounds cliche. It sounds like something that anybody would just tell you, just take a quick breather. But I mean to tell you that making those deliberate breaths, imagining this cloud, maybe you want to imagine a cloud of mist or something like that, but having this mental image to slow down your breathing, this makes an enormous difference for me. So I do this every day. Today, I know I'm going to do it because there will be times throughout the day where I will have multiple problems coming at me. People are waiting for me to get back to them. There are people calling. There are issues that I have to jump on. Otherwise, the feeling and the problems compound. More people come at me with questions. But the reality is, if I stop and breathe and calm my brain down, I know I can handle the things that I have to handle. But the point is to get it to a point where my brain knows this and gives me the confidence that I can absorb, there's almost a limitless amount of stuff that can come at me, and I can handle it, even if that means delegating, push something away. Hold on, this is not a priority, or I can just push this to the person that actually knows how to deal with this, or something like that. People come at you all day thinking that you're the person to talk to about something when maybe you're not. You're just the most convenient person for somebody to come at. And my point is that these types of problems never end, especially if you're the kind of person that makes yourself more accessible. People start to think that you're just the convenient person to go to and to run to with their problems. So if you have this point where you're overwhelmed, just breathe, because the solution to a lot of these problems cannot come clearly to you if your brain is overwhelmed. And if you just take those 30 seconds to breathe and slow down your heart rate, do the mental imagery of breathing slowly and very deeply, you get the oxygen in there, you slow down your heart rate, and all of a sudden the solutions to whatever problems are coming at you, they either become very clear, or you can clearly map out exactly how to figure something out that you have to deal with and just move on with your day. It feels good. And so that's my thought for today. I hope it's helpful. Have an amazing day.